Your shit's weak. I can't
We're
help it.
back. We're back live here. I've got some new speakers,
Why didn't you have
and
that shit set up before we started this bullshit, motherfucker? That's the question. Why the fuck is your shit always fucking up? My shit never changes. I've been in the same fucking spot for 20 fucking years. You motherfuckers want to fucking move around like you're fucking getting a better spot in the Hellmouth when it's all still the Hellmouth.
well, in between the move, maybe some things got jostled around, and therefore, luckily, I have 3 sets of different speakers, so I'm trying. So they're not the color I would prefer,
Really?
but it's okay.
How about hello?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. I don't need you to fucking unplug or move another motherfucking thing because my fucking bath is calling me in about an hour and 10 minutes. Let's roll!
That's fine. I mean, we were talking about Butler. I'm the one that's going to have to splice this later. Butler. I was talking about Sly Stallone doing Rambo 5. You mentioned something with Harrison Ford. Oh, by the way, something else did pop up, Bill.
What's that?
When I was going to work last week, I was taking my Netflix DVDs, to mail, and a few of them dropped out of my folder onto the floor in the lobby. And the one lady who has a lot of nerve looking to me like she wears Birkenstock for a living looked at me and was started laughing. She goes, "You're still mailing these DVDs?" I mean, this tree hugger was looking at me, judging me. And I go, "Yes." And then I had to go into explaining why, because not everything is streaming. Am I missing something?
Why do you have to explain this to her? Why don't you just give her the stink eye, snatch your fucking shit back, and keep moving?
Well, well, my question to you is I'm missing something. The reason why I get the DVDs is because not everything is available on streaming.
I understand why you get the DVDs. You don't have to explain it to me. I'm not a tree
Okay.
hugger.
Okay. All right. All right. I was about to say if the system's changed, I'm willing to change with it, but there's just certain things. Have you heard a movie called Into the Fade?
Really?
Okay. Well, anyway, my point is it's available on DVD. Am I supposed to just pay like $8 for it to be streamed from Google Play or something else?
You know what? Here's the thing. I can accept the fucking shit that you still have physical discs because I have physical discs too. But really, DVD? Why don't you just order VHS and see if they have it available on VHS? I mean,
Okay, here we
really?
go. Another level of judging. By the
I
way,
mean,
I don't want to have to do splicing on my Sunday, but I guess I
too
will
late.
have to.
Yeah, because your shit's not on lock. If you put your shit on lock before we start this bullshit, you wouldn't have to fucking worry about this bullshit. But no. You want to fucking put shit together with fucking electrical tape and fucking popsicle sticks and some string, and then you want the shit to work. It doesn't work like that.
We got to give a shout out here. Do you know that Neil and Melissa are in Africa probably right now?
Sure, they're world travelers. I understand.
Yeah, yeah. I think they were landing into Rwanda, and now they're going to be crossing over some borders, trying to avoid Boko Haram, and then hanging out with some silverback gorillas. I kid
Are
you
they
not.
going to Wakanda? Wakanda forever! If they're not going to Wakanda, I can't understand. I don't understand the problem.
Melissa did watch Black Panther on the flight over because you know what? She's dedicated to the Marvel universe.
I feel like we're not playing on the same level as Neil and Melissa. I feel like Neil and Melissa are like sophisticated world travelers, and we're just like domesticated people who don't do that kind of thing. So that I feel like they're kind of a little bit on a different level than us.
Superfan Melissa is a Renaissance woman. Not only can she dabble a little bit with the underwear movies, as Carlos would call them, but she can also read the Wall Street Journal. She's a woman for all ages.
I understand, but I feel like I'm a little out of my league when I deal with her because like she's like, I've seen the bush up close and personal. All you've seen is fucking Black Panther.
She's gonna come on the next podcast and be like, Bill, I've been to Wakanda, and I can tell you right now, T'Challa is a great king, and his accent just works just fine.
Yes, sometimes I feel like I'm not playing on the same level as her sometimes.
And maybe so safe travels to them and superfan Nadia. That was a great email she wrote last time, Bill. I really enjoyed. I read it like 2 or 3 different times.
She always sends great emails.
Yeah, her synopsis on the Avengers: Infinity War. I'm just sitting there, fired me up, as well as her observations on Solo. That what's his name, Alden Ehrenreich.
Oh, I can't with you. It's Aaron. Why? Why now? You've got me confused. Alden Ehrenreich.
Listen, she thinks he has a scrunched up face, and I tend to agree with her. There's something wrong with his face.
I
It's
can't
scrunched
understand
up.
you people because I've just been watching the Han Solo trailers and looking at the posters, and I'm just not going to get down on that level. But I'm just going to tell you right now: if he was in bed, I would not kick him out for eating crackers. Let's move on.
Okay, okay, that's fine. It's fine. It's at least other people see it with me. I'll have to do some more polling on it. There's something off. But anyway, we got Solo coming up in a couple weeks,
Exactly 2 weeks, I think.
and I think if it's a big hit, they plan on doing a couple more, huh?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that it's going to be a big hit. I have a sneaking suspicion that it might just not be, but I of course, am looking forward to it anyway. But I don't know. We'll see.
Isn't it trending towards being a big hit? Aren't they bringing in the ticket sales to where it
Yeah,
seems
yeah,
like
they're
it?
bringing in the ticket sales, but I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate into people spreading word of mouth that's positive.
So what's your reservation here? I saw that Ron Howard said that there was an article that said 70% of the movie is his.
My
Um,
reservation, I don't really. My reservation is a couple of the trailers weren't really hitting it out of the park for me. The last one really did finally get me. Um, also, I really don't want to trend the negative on this, but some of the hardcore fanboys of Star Wars have not been super positive about it. That's all I know. I don't
oh,
know
what do you
anything.
mean super hardcore fans?
Well, people who do podcasts and video stuff like that on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So we can't go there because that gets into spoiler territory then.
Yeah, I don't really know specifics. All I know is that, I started to hear a little bit of negativity, so I started blocking people. That's all I know.
Huh. That's interesting. I haven't heard that.
I haven't heard
Huh.
negative from the general, but from the hardcores, people who I would expect to be like down with it haven't necessarily been super down with it. So that's all I know.
And when they're not down with something, is that because it doesn't match up with the canon, or is it just something?
I don't know. I'm not a big Star Wars fanboy fan anyway. I don't really necessarily care for them, so I just sort of have them on like observation mode, and then when they go negative, then I just drop them entirely. So that's all I know.
I thought everything was mended with the Force Awakens. I thought we were all one big happy
Yeah,
family
yeah,
again.
yeah. That was great. Force Awakens lasted about a year, and then the Last Jedi came out, and all of a sudden it started to be like prequel talk again. We've talked about this before that people do not. There's a certain faction of fans that do not like the Last Jedi at all.
You know, you know what, Bill? Right now, I have the ultimate situation right now set up here. I don't have a office chair currently. I'm sitting on a Tupperware tub of some sort, some plastic.
Really?
Yeah, and I have this bulky desk here. But what I have in front of me is I have 2 monitors, and then I have a television in front of me. And what I can do also on there, setting up Fire TVs on everything with PS4. I also have split screen. So on one screen I have Die Hard 4, and on the other screen I have Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So I have 2 monitors going up, doing the podcast with you, and 2 movies on in the background.
Well, first of all, that's just so fucking disrespectful. I don't understand why the fuck you have movies in the background. You know what's the background? Background is like CNN or local news or some kind of like TLC show or some kind of like reality housewives bullshit. That's background fodder. You don't treat movies like background. That's just disrespectful.
What if I've seen them like a million times already, though?
So what? If they're worthy, if they can be lifted like Thor's hammer, if you're worthy, then you will get the respect that you deserve. If you're not worthy, then I guess you just play the shit in the background.
Well, maybe they're not worthy because they seem to be on like heavy rotation on some of these stations. Like TNT shows the same thing over,
So what?
over and
If you,
over.
how do you feel about the movie? Do you feel the movie is worthy, or do you feel the movie is unworthy? Because clearly, by the way you're watching it, it seems to be unworthy.
Well, I think we're different here. I think they're worthy movies, but unfortunately, I don't want to put news on the background because the Orange Clown, who knows what he's doing next? It's going to get me mad. That's actually going to send me into a tizzy. This is perfect.
I just don't understand how you watch movies. I really just don't understand it. I don't understand it. If I'm gonna watch a movie, I'm gonna watch a movie. I'm not gonna disrespect it by like doing six other things while putting the movie in the background. That just is a slap in the face to the fucking cinema of
You
it.
know what? That's what you have to do. You've got, listen, I'm converting to millennials. I need to be having a tablet and my phone. And when my phone's battery starts to die, I just switch over to the tablet, play some games, look at some Twitter, pull up my email, do some news. And if the movie isn't really engaging, then it'll prevent me from doing that. If not, and there's some downtime, then there's always a chance to be checking some new emails to push to trash, move to trash.
It's fine. You know what? It would be fine if you were a millennial, but you're like 47. So you're not a millennial. So I don't know why you behave like you think you're a millennial, because that's fine for them because they're young people and we understand that these people have been raised in different expectations than we have. But we grew up when you went to a fucking movie, you paid your like 8.50 or whatever it was, $2.50 back in like 1984 at the Southern Park Mall or Eastwood Mall or wherever you were going to see your movies. And you sat down, you watch a movie, and then you leave and you go home. And you get a magazine in the mail if you're a fan person, like Fangoria or something, and you read about the movie. You don't just do 12 other things because there was no other 12 things to do.
You know, this is really interesting now because what you're starting to do is you're really like, I feel like this is some sort of like Christopher Walken Continental. You're putting on like a smoking jacket. You walk in, you fix yourself a little highball drink, and then you pop some popcorn, sit down in your comfy chair in your bedroom or whatever, fire up your movie, and you just sit back in the candlelight and start watching. I
Yes,
mean,
that's what you do. That's how I was raised. That's how you were raised. I'm staying true to my roots. I'm not doing this. Oh, what's going on Twitter? What's going on my iPad? What's going on my phone? What's doing that? No? When it's time for movie time, you turn that shit off and you watch a movie.
you know, it's very difficult when like are in between like seeing the movies at the theater when we're just hanging out at the house and we just put on whatever the movie that's been selected to watch.
Yeah.
It's because when I go check my phone or my Twitter or whatever else or my tablet, you give me this strange look like put it the fuck down.
Yeah.
Makes it very uncomfortable to even like,
It's
you know what?
disrespectful. Let me tell you something. When you come down here in 2 weeks, when we're going to Han Solo, I've already got it all planned out. We've got our tickets for 2 shows. We've got our lunch at PF Chang's at Easton because we're going to see it in Dolby Cinema both times. Because
Ooh, nice.
And then, if you're lucky, I've convinced my husband to make us some barbecued ribs for dinner. We'll have on the patio. It'll be lovely. What you won't be doing is when we watch, because we're going to do something like maybe a Star Wars original 77 viewing for our, like Saturday night movie, is when we're watching it to see like how Holden Ehrenreich compares to Harrison Ford, is playing on your tablet or phone because I've blocked all internet access.
You know what? That sounds like great. A little PF Chang's
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
rib.
yeah.
Oh,
It'd be lovely.
I
But
haven't been down to Seabus over at Chateau Isombiacilla in I don't know how long.
I know it's been a while. So yeah, but I can't be having like when my husband pulls up his phone when we're watching like I don't know, Agents of Shield or something and his phone rings, I just give him one stink eye and then he goes, I'll turn it off. I go, I know. That's right. That's how you do. We don't play that shit over here.
So, what was I going to say here? I lost my train of thought, Bill.
That's okay.
It could be for the fact is I have all these like entertainment in the background.
Oh, you think?
I mean, you've
I think
avoided
your old ass
TV.
brain doesn't really necessarily have the capability of multitasking like that. That's why young people, it's a young people's game, Jay. The fucking multi thing, that's a young people's game. We're old. We don't really have the capabilities of like playing on a phone, watching a movie. So why try?
Well, I hope I won't fall asleep during the Star Wars thing.
Oh, I'm already prepared for it. I already have my fucking BB gun to just shoot you in the head.
5 hour energy. Okay, let's move on. I know we're going to be getting there. We're going to be getting to the Avengers Infinity War. I think people are probably upset that we take so long to get to the main bulk of the show, I would think.
We can't
So
be
have I
concerned
missed
about
anything? Did any of your shows, speaking of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., did any of your shows make it through or get canceled?
We're still waiting. Tomorrow is the upfronts, I think, for ABC, and Tuesday is the upfronts for all the other networks. So Fox will probably find out on Tuesday with Gotham. Monday, probably tomorrow, we'll probably find out about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know why they're waiting to the last minute. It seems like if there was going to be some good news, they would have said it already. So I don't know. It's kind of iffy.
Yeah, I saw there's a few articles that goes over like a plethora of fucking TV shows that have made it or didn't make it.
Oh, there's a shit. Networks are like really being really cutthroat this year. Like they've cut a shitload of shit.
Well, if they're cutting those shows, they have to have something to replace them, right?
Well, right, but I guess they're generally taking the attitude of like, we'll take anything but what we've got. So a lot of shit's been canceled. But then, like I don't know, I don't watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but it's like supposedly got some kind of cult following. But that was canceled at Fox on like Friday, and yesterday, I think NBC picked it up. So sometimes there's always that hope. And then Netflix is always like the last prayer for all shows that get canceled. Everyone's always like, "Oh, Netflix can do it," and Netflix is like, "I'll pass."
Sure, Arrested Development. I heard on the street that Comcast is trying to come in and steal Fox away from Disney. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's gonna piss me off. That's gonna piss me off royally.
Yeah, they're saying they're going to pull up at least. They're going to try to come up with $60 billion in cash, and not cash, but just come up with $60 billion to offer Fox. They're trying to be a monkey trying to be a wrench in the monkey.
Yeah, it's pissing me off because I mean I don't really give a shit about like the 90% of the other shit that these networks pump out or these companies pump out, but I want the fucking Fantastic Four and the X-Men in the MCU. Can you imagine? They're on such a fucking roll. Can you imagine if they fucking have the MCU with fucking X-Men and Fantastic Four back in it? I mean, there's no end to the fucking joy. There's no end to it. So, yeah, I don't want them to fuck up that plan. I really don't.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to, though. It's interesting.
Yeah, I know. But it's hard to beat Disney, Jay. I mean, Disney's a company that really basically owns my ass. I feel like I just want to go, I want a t-shirt that says Disney, I'm Disney's bitch. That's really what I want. I want a t-shirt that says I'm Disney's bitch. Because, I'm thinking about it. And like they own fucking Marvel, they own Pixar. Of course, they have their own Disney animation proper. They own Star Wars. I mean, if they get Fox, they're going to own everything. I want them to own everything because I like having all of my men's fucking me from one direction.
Okay, well, that's going to be interesting to watch right there. I like to be behind the scenes on that. We'll probably get Superfan Melissa on that Comcast thing, see what the nuts and bolts are. I mean, technically, if you're offering $60 billion, why wouldn't you take it though?
Because Disney is a company that really is on a roll, and they have a kind of, what do I want to say like
So what is Fox doing them a favor by saying, "Hey, we'll just take your 52 billion because you guys are doing really good stuff, and we want
Well, I
quality
mean,
stuff to be
it's the
pumped
same
out."
reason George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney, because he wanted, it's a company that has some kind of legacy that is, synonymous with quality, and also,
I don't know if Fox has the same type of connection as George Lucas does to Star Wars. With
well, no, but Fox has a connection to fucking a legacy. They want a legacy. They want their shit legacy secure.
ain't nobody
Comcast,
gonna remember that Fox had anything to do with that. As soon as they come out with a new Wolverine, we'll be like, "Hugh who? Jackman who? What?" We're gonna
yeah,
move on. We're
yeah,
gonna move on.
yeah, if you put it in the MCU, but if you sell it to Comcast, I mean, what's it gonna be? They're just gonna reboot it with some fucking shit. You don't
Oh
know.
yeah, they're gonna get your CW crowd. They're gonna pull in that whole Cloak and Dagger crowd and just throw them in there. And then you can hear me whine about it for the next 2 years about how these all look like underwear models doing the same bullshit over again, saying the same lines. Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
what's gonna
saying,
happen.
if Fox wants to be secure in a quality with a legacy and a company that's on top of its game, you really can't beat Disney right now. You just can't. There's really no. They're like they're at the top of their game right now. So yeah, I mean, you could sell it to Comcast, but you don't know what you're going to get, or you could sell it to Disney, and you know your shit's going to be on lock.
Okay, so when Comcast all of a sudden Fox starts to seriously consider it, I'm gonna put you on suicide watch at that point.
I don't know if it's that serious. I don't think I would like, be totally depressed about it. But I mean, come on, Jay. Marvel having the MCU back with the X-Men, since Hugh Jackman's already decided he's not coming back. Whoever buys it's gonna have to recast. And we know that Kevin Feige's not fucking around. We know that Kevin Feige's gonna be like, he's gonna fucking put the shit where it belongs. He's gonna really do it right. And I can you imagine the fucking Infinity War with the X-Men and the Fantastic Four in it? Oh my god! Oh my god! Yes. Yes. So many times, yes. Or as RuPaul and the drag queens on Drag Race would say, yes, mama, yes.
Okay. All right. We'll keep track of that. Speaking of cash, I had to throw this story in there just because I feel like we should be educating some of the people here. Word on the street was RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., got paid $10 million for 8 minutes in Spider-Man Homecoming. The movie is 2 hours and 13 minutes. He got paid $10 million for 8 minutes. $1 million a minute for doing
Robert Downey Jr. went from crackhead to savior of Hollywood cinema. I would argue that Kevin Feige and all of the MCU owe a debt to Robert Downey Jr. that cannot be measured in 8 or 10 millions of dollars. So yeah, if you want to put it in the big picture, he deserved every penny.
They said that Chris Pratt only got $10 million for Jurassic Park World or Jurassic World.
Did Chris Pratt save the fucking Hollywood itself? Did Chris Pratt make the fucking MCU? No, that was RDJ. So,
well, yeah, you know what? They're paying him like that. Okay, that's for sure. They're absolutely paying him.
But I mean, if you want to argue who deserves that money or doesn't deserve that money, I would say for what he put on the map and what they've, we're looking at a 19 picture. I think it's a $10 billion franchise. $10 million versus $10 billion. Come on.
Robert Downey comes in and goes, "Hey Peter, how you doing? Oh, is that Aunt May? That's great. Okay, don't use the spider suit. Okay, gotta go. $1 million. Thank you."
Yes.
Cash. I'll show up tomorrow for my next 2 minutes. And by the way, if you want to do reshoots, that's going to be another $5 million. So you better really get it the first time.
Do you want to make a point that he doesn't deserve that money?
Well, I just threw out the figures. I haven't made it. I mean, if that's what the market bears, that's what the market. I mean, that's what it's. If they're paying him $10 million, they clearly think he's worth it.
Can you argue that he's not?
Well, if you wanted Spider-Man: Homecoming to be successful as it was, I think you needed Iron Man in there. It helped. So, um, well, clearly he seems to be valuable.
Well,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, is it ridiculous money? Sure. But if you want to put it in perspective,
He's their main linchpin for the whole universe.
there you go. Okay. Out of their 10 million investment in Robert Downey Jr., they've made quadruple zillions of dollars from it. So you can't really argue that.
Do you think somewhere Terrence Howard is a little bit salty?
I think somewhere Terrence Howard probably is a little salty, but he's got his own. He's not. He's not crying poor. They're just renewed Empire for like season 7. He's the lead in that show. He could do worse. He's doing fine.
Okay. All right. I mean, I would think if anything, once again, we go over this ground, is that when Marvel comes knocking, I would think that if you wanted to secure like a good paycheck, this might be the place to do it right now.
Yeah, but
No,
you have
wait.
to remember when Terrence Howard did his negotiations for Iron Man 2, it wasn't a 19 picture Goliath. It was a 2-movie startup, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So, back then, Terrence Howard might have been a little bit big for his britches. Now, if Terrence Howard had been up to this point where they've replaced him with Ugmo, what's his name?
Don Cheadle.
Yeah. Then he wanted to renegotiate. Then I might say, yeah, they probably should, capitulate. But back then, they didn't necessarily know they were going to be making. I mean, they knew Iron Man was a mega success. They knew Iron Man 2 was happening, but Perlmutter was still in charge. Things were different.
So outside of Robert Downey Jr., who do you think I mean, it's a little bit different now that we're so many movies in, but in terms of leverage, in terms of replacing people, Terrence Howard overplayed his hand.
At the time, yes.
What about Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye? Are those all replaceable too?
Well, I mean, everybody's replaceable now. I mean, they killed off 90% of the cast.
Okay.
So
Well, we're going to have to get into the movie.
I don't think this is a good negotiating point for anybody at this point, except for maybe Chris Evans, the original 6.
Well, let's just get. Okay. Well, we're going to have to get into the movie. Before we get into the movie, Bill, is everything good with you? Good weekend? Anything else we need to go over? You want to talk some Star Wars? You want to be buying some toys? You want to do some points of articulation? What do you get? What do you got?
I have a philosophy on the Star Wars thing. I don't buy movies that are not. I don't buy toys for movies that are not saga films. So I did not buy any toys for Rogue One. I didn't buy any toys for Han Solo. So, I mean, I have to cap it at some point. You know what I mean? Like I have to, at some point, say, this is going to be for me and this is not going to be for me. So
your rules are made to be broken. There's going to be some sort of pog or porg or pork chop or some other shit that comes out in the movie, and you're going to say, I have to have that.
Yeah, that's
and then
true.
you're going to try to justify it like, well, this thing is going to be in the next episode movie, so I'll just buy it early because it's going to be making an appearance later on. You'll figure out a way to put it in there.
Yeah, but so far, of the anthology films, I have not bought any materials. So that's all I'm saying.
All right. So are we good? This is what I've been waiting for. I wish I had a sound bite, but we're not fucking with it. These speakers seem to be great, though.
Yeah, good.
So, dread it. What is it? Dread it.
Run from it. Destiny still arrives.
All right, here we are. We're into the podcast, Avengers Infinity War. We've seen it twice. I did fall asleep at the same parts twice in a row.
I just don't really understand. I just don't understand. What do I have to start smacking you in the movie theater? I'm just gonna just like. What?
I get up so early. My batteries run low. I need to recharge, and I eat the popcorn.
Have you ever tried coffee? Have you ever tried like caffeine?
Bill, I don't believe in drugs, Bill.
You know, it's it's a fucking beverage that millions and millions of people drink every day. As drugs go, I think it's probably pretty much benign. I don't know if it's one of those that you have to worry about getting like turning on to like opioids and ending up in a fucking, you know, drug
I
induced.
s- I still don't know how Thor got his eye. I know Rocket gave it to him from his bag, but I don't know how it all got back into his head or how the conversation happens. I'm missing that like 5 minutes.
Well, when I
But
buy my 2 copies of Infinity War, since you're not going to be buying any, and I will possibly consider giving you the digital code, but I need a commitment from you to be watching it like I have Black Panther
oh,
within a certain period of time.
oh, listen, I'll be watching Avengers: Infinity War. It's by the Russos.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
And by the way,
Will they be wearing condoms when they stick it in your butt?
I,
Or
I want you to know that we saw Avengers: Infinity War, and it lived up to the hype. It lived up to the hype.
for you?
Okay,
I'm
okay. I'm
just I'm
speaking.
just fucking
I'm
I'm just
speaking for
fucking with
myself.
you. I'm fucking
I'm
with you. Lived up to the
I,
hype. I agree.
I'm I'm speaking for myself. Then,
No, I
I,
agree. I agree. I agree. You
oh,
know what? I was like this. I had to turn myself off from all the hype, and I was like, you know what? These movies get hyped up, and I get all like crazy about it, and they never live up to the fucking expectations. Like they're good, yes, most of the time they're okay. I like them. I put them in my collection, but they're not necessarily everything that was promised in the trailers. And I get a little resentful of it sometimes. But I have to
now,
agree, it
I
lived up to the
mean,
hype.
the opening, the middle, the beginning, it's just strong. And I wish that most of my, I heard the saying like comparison is the thief of joy. And I don't want to have to compare movies because it seems like I don't know, I have to kick one in the stomach to build another one up. But on its own, this is something to where like Winter Soldier, this is what I want them to be. They can't all be like this, but this is getting right where I want to be. Where I'm talking, these scenes are like straight from a comic book, and they're just so good. Bill, the opening scene where you have um, Thanos rolling around with his Black Order, his cadre of evil super cohorts, and then all of a sudden the Hulk comes out of nowhere, and then he's battling the Hulk, and they're like, no, no, let him handle it, and he whoops Hulk's ass. This is the type of opening that put me on notice that like, here we go. This is what we want. This is what I want. We had death and we had ass kicking to let you know
Listen,
that your supervillain is a badass.
I am not going to disagree with you. I think Avengers Infinity War is a actual um culmination. You know, I've been watching these fucking trailers and these fan videos and these fan music videos, you know, to the point where I had to stop because I told you before we saw the movie, I'm like I'm on super hype overload and I just can't. I have to get rid of it. I have to stop, remove myself because I felt like the expectations were never going to be met. I do have to say it lived up to the expectations and exceeded the expectations that I had. After after Civil War, which you know I did not necessarily love, I like it, and the more I see it, I do have respect that grows for it over time. But this is the movie that I wanted Civil War to be plus 10. I mean, it's the shit. I mean, that's all I can say. It's like if this is the start of the summer movie season of 2018 that we're in, if Han Solo can come anywhere near it, you know, I don't expect Ant Man and the Wasp to be up on that same level. But to be honest, I mean, let's just give it respect to where it's due. After 19 movies, this is what it needed to be. It totally is the shit. That's all I can say. It's the shit.
Yes. And they finally, in terms of their villains, they finally gave me something like, this is something I always focus on. They gave me some other characters that are rival to the heroes. They gave me some sort of meat on their bones. They don't seem to be paper thin to me. I know we were arguing about the motivation of Thanos. I bought into all of it. I bought into all of it. I'm okay with it. You know, it's just that he's such a strong and
It works
maniacal
better in the
character.
movie than it did on the page, and I
Yeah.
think, I think that your concern about it and my concern about it was, that it just didn't sound like it would be believable in the movie, but somehow in the movie they made it work. And I agree with you that it totally, you know, I don't need. The thing about this is, yes, Thanos is probably the best. I, I'll just give it to him. He is the best Marvel villain yet. Um, and he was at a level that matched the investment that they give the heroes. I don't necessarily need that from all my villains, but it certainly isn't unwelcome for me for him to be considered to be a fleshed out character. I think it does make it interesting. I think it does make it raises the levels and the stakes for the other heroes when they give them a foe that is, you know, at this level. So yeah, I mean, I think that I'm actually surprised that they gave him as much depth and range as they did, considering he's also a all CGI character. And it also says to me, like, if they can do this with Thanos, this like CG level character that's like so believable, and give him like so many like such. I mean, I really do think it's another level of like, it's like one of those Jurassic Park things when it's like they've taken CG to another level. Um, I expect, but then this becomes, the expectation that, from now on they have to match that or exceed that level, and we'll see if that remains to be seen if they can do that. But it certainly ascended to a different place than all other CG, I think, has gotten to this point.
I think you're right about that. The CGI was perfect. It was a little bit wonky when they had that Hulkbuster thing with Bruce Banner at the end, where he was standing around. I
They
don't think
spent all the money on fucking Thanos' expressions.
well, clearly they spent all the money. That's why we couldn't have a Hulk in the movie, because they had to spend all the money on Thanos. You can't have
Yeah,
two.
right. I mean, they're not made out of money.
Oh, not yet. Not yet. Anyway, I mean, this whole introduction, in terms of like we were talking about, how are they going to juggle all these characters and how they give them time to shine. I mean, it was a very nice introduction, and it flowed from one scene to the next. I mean,
I
who
will
didn't
say
get
this.
excited when the Guardians of the Galaxy appeared? Somehow they kept them within their character, but attached them to the universe of the Russos, if you will.
There were some characters that I felt were short shrifted. There were some characters that I felt that I did not expect to be given so much meat that were. I would expect, and they've already said, that characters that necessarily weren't shining or had shining moments in this movie will be given more meat in the second version, or the second part of this movie, which is fine. I mean, what they pulled off is miraculous, quite honestly. So nothing's 100% perfect. So there were some characters, things that I thought were like, oh well, I mean, they could have done more with that person or this person, and I do expect them to be given more material. But there were characters in this movie that I didn't expect were going to be given so much to do, that were actually really like Gamora. I mean, I really didn't. Gamora was a good character. She was fine in the Guardians movies, but I didn't necessarily think that there was that much meat to her. And then they really kind of made her a central character in this movie, and they really made you care about Gamora in ways that I did not think I would necessarily ever care about her in. And I mean, even certain characters that you didn't necessarily like, the Guardians. I thought, well, Drax has always sort of been like a background character, and they didn't necessarily give him a major role in this movie, but the stuff they gave him was like shining shit. Like, I mean, the shit when he was like, I'm invisible, that was funny. It was fucking funny. I'm sorry, it was just funny.
My movements are imperceptible.
Yes, I mean, that was like taking the nuggets of what Drax was given in the other Guardians movies, and just like what they gave them was like superb stuff. I mean, it was just great stuff. There wasn't really a necessarily. I mean, there's one scene in the movie when they're like walking. I forget where they're going. Maybe up to like Thanos, and they're like sort of doing a sneak attack. The Guardians were, and Peter has his like fist up to like make everybody be quiet, and they're walking. And in the background, you see Mantis, who by the way has become one of my favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe characters. You see Mantis like doing like a praying mantis like pose as she's like sort of doing the sneak with her hands up. It's just hilarious, and she's like background. You wouldn't really even pay attention to that, but I noticed it, and I thought that was great.
Yeah. By the way, we have guess who came into the studio?
Mm. It wouldn't be one of the cats, would it?
No, it's my woman.
Okay. Oh, well, hello.
Yeah. See, this is now that we're in the Hellmouth West. Yeah. Now, I occasionally have like a guest producer, or maybe a guest host.
Maybe she would like to join the show at some point. That'd be nice.
No, right now she's making fun of us right now. That's what she's doing. So.
I mean, that's just not nice. We're easy targets, really. I mean, that's just like low hanging fruit.
Anyway, listen, I don't want to spend too much time on the villains, but the villains in this show really set it off for me. I mean, well, which is not to take away from the heroes here, but the Black Order with the Ma and the fight scenes that he was involved in, it saddens me that these characters were killed off, allegedly.
Listen, Ma was great. No question about it. I don't know if I would necessarily say the big guy, what was his name?
Oh, the Hulk-like character with the giant axe?
I mean, come on. Those other characters, they were good. I mean, like the chick with the horns in her head, what was her name? I don't even know these people's names. But Ma and Thanos are the Shining.
Have some respect.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just saying, they were serviceable, and they were probably made more badass because they were surrounded by badassery. But I don't know if I would say that big dude was like shining, like he stood out or something. I mean, he was just like, the fucking.
I would hope by the time that anybody listens to our podcast, they've already seen the movie. And
well, if they have, they should be listening to this show. It's been out for 3 weeks. Where the fuck are you?
To go over all the details, but part of the movie, what the 19th, 20th movie here, when we get to this point, the 19th. Culmination of it all, I always say that these things have to be epic, and in the end, you have these splash scenes. You cannot tell me that once Thor gets his hammer back and he arrives at the battle and he lands and all the lightning's crackly everywhere, you can feel the energy to the audience and everybody wants to cheer and start clapping because it's just cool.
I agree with you. Here's, for me, my own personal idiosyncratic, individualized viewpoint of Thor in general, okay? People say, or I have heard many voices on Twitter and all that other stuff, Thor is finally Thor. Thor has arrived. Thor is now going to be like, what Thor was supposed to be in the start. I don't want to be negative about it. I like Ragnarok. I do think some of the comedy was played up maybe too much, and I understand that Chris Hemsworth is a comedic talent that was underserved in the previous movies. But quite honestly, Ragnarok is not my favorite of the Thor movies, and everyone seems to think that, or says that Thor, has ascended to another level with Ragnarok. I don't dislike Ragnarok, but I don't necessarily have a problem with Thor 2 the way that most people do. I like Thor 2, probably the best of all 3 of the Thor movies, to be honest with you. I didn't love Thor 1, and I didn't love Ragnarok, but Thor 2 I kind of respected for what it was, and it made me see Thor in a different light. I do think that Chris Hemsworth has become Thor, but it wasn't necessarily Ragnarok that did it for me. And I do think that he was a great contribution in this movie, and I think that they added layers to him that, because of what happened in Ragnarok, not necessarily the whole movie, but because of Asgard's destruction and Thor losing everything and all that business. Um, I do think he's going to become a bigger player in the core of the Avengers, but I don't know if Ragnarok did it for me. Do you?
You're talking me. You
I know
think
that you
what's his
don't like Ragnarok, but I'm saying Thor's character. Do you think Thor's character was needing a reboot and that he became, the Thor that he was supposed to be through Ragnarok? I don't know if I feel that way.
No, I don't. Of course I don't. I mean, yeah, let's just take it outside of the movie in and of itself. If Chris Hemsworth wanted to stretch his acting abilities and do something different with the character, that's fine. But the Thor in Ragnarok, I could do without. If I never saw that Thor again, it'd be too soon.
I don't know if I go that far. I don't
What?
think he was bad.
Listen, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not what I prefer because we're getting into more of it's just a comedy of one-liners and jokes, and I just don't think that fits. Now it fits in the Guardians of the Galaxy world, but it fits because the characters themselves, I don't consider them to be like they're purposely just trying to do some shtick. It's just that in and of themselves, they're funny just who they are and how their interactions. You have Drax taking everything very seriously. You have Rocket just being nasty and having his own way.
Yeah, but that's who they were.
And they all play off each other, and it creates comedy just out of base who they are. In Thor Ragnarok, I feel like everybody's trying to be a comedian and tell a line and tell a joke. And that's where I don't want the character going. Now, once we have him back in Infinity War, it's all toned down. We stripped all that away.
Yeah, but you still have that sort of like the comedic element to Thor that wasn't necessarily present. I mean, he was present in the
He has
first one.
personality, but they don't have it on like blast of a 10. He has personality. I'm not saying neuter the man, but he's not on a 10 where he's going waka waka waka. Okay, give it a 5, give it a 6.
Here's what I think. I think what's genius is that they combined Thor, which had some comedic element to it to start with, and then they sort of lost a lot of that in 2, and then they sort of amped it up to like 12 in 3. I think combining him with the Guardians is like comic gold. I think, but it doesn't necessarily become forced. It becomes like I just love the interactions between the Thor character and the Guardians, like the stuff with him and Chris Pratt when they're sort of like, because they're both sort of like these like machismo characters, and then you sort of have Thor and Drax, with Drax is just like he's like a specimen, and then obviously Peter Quill is like sort of threatened with his like alpha male presence against Thor, and then you also have Thor, playing off of Rocket and
listen, Rabbit.
Yeah, or like the scene he's like when he introduces Captain America to like Groot, and he's like, "This is my friend Tree," and then Groot goes like, "I am Groot," and he goes, "I am Steve Rogers." It's just hysterical. It's just gold.
But it's gold. See, this is what I'm talking about here. The difference is they're playing it straight for me. Like the comedy comes from like a natural delivery. Like they're jokes, but there's something that's subtle within it where they're not looking at you. The jokes just play themselves out. Like when Thor is saying those lines to Rocket, he's not like smiling like, "Hey, I'm telling a joke because I know you're not a rabbit." He's just like, "Let's go, rabbit," and he just keeps moving. Like they're not waiting for you to sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, we're all laughing because it's just funny." Hit the drums. They're not doing that. They're saying it, and it's like either you get it or you don't. But we're moving on. We're not dwelling on it, and it's a level of like when Doctor Strange introduces himself, he goes, um, whatever else. What he says, I'm Doctor Strange. And he goes, "Oh, we're using our hero names. Well, I'm Spider Man then, or something like that.
Right. I think it would
Whatever
have been better
else."
to save that for the movie instead of putting it in the trailer, but I agree.
Yeah, but there's a certain charm to it, to where it's like not on its face. It's a joke, but it's serious. Like that's what I go by. I'm Doctor Strange, but you could
Right.
somebody can interpret it. It works on a different level as opposed to like just general. What are those? Are those eggs coming out of your butt? Are those just metals or something? Like it's just like
I'm
it's
sorry,
like
I still think that's
sophomore.
funny.
That's
Um,
like sophomore humor. Most of the time, the stuff in Thor Ragnarok was just it just played
is
on a very
there any
basic
film
level.
in your oeuvre? Listen, not every
Listen,
movie is going to be everybody's
listen.
favorite. I agree.
If you want to make room for it, then I'm going to go see Zoolander or Dumb and Dumber, Bill. Okay. Otherwise, I don't expect that to be in other movies.
No,
Okay,
but
I
you know
just
what?
don't.
The thing that makes the movies in the MCU seemingly as fresh as they are, and 19 movies in, is that they do use different varying degrees of comedy or drama or pathos or action or science or whatever you want to call it. Some movies amp up some elements, some movies downplay other elements, some movies play other elements. Is it, I'm not saying it needs to be your favorite Ragnarok, or I'm not saying Ant-Man needs to be your favorite, but do you see why they do what they do, that they vary the tones so that it doesn't all necessarily feel like the same version of the movie
No,
played out?
I don't see that. I look at it from one perspective only, is that they have shitty, incompetent writers on certain of these films. And if they don't have their A team, they have their A team working on the Infinity War, and then they have their C team working on this other shit. And that's why you have Boss Baby versus something like Inside Out over at Pixar. That's the difference. You have different writers and a different level of talent. That's what I think. And I
I
don't think that they're sitting there going, we're going to save our fart jokes for Ant Man so that people can sit there and recognize the difference between when we give them something more layered in Infinity War.
You don't think that after 19 movies of having let's say the Russos were in charge of every Marvel movie. You don't think after 19 movies that shit would get played out?
Nope, I don't.
Okay.
Bill, talent doesn't get played out. It's like asking me if Chipotle gets played out. I've been eating Chipotle for years, okay? This shit's good. It's always good. Okay?
Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you. I don't necessarily love every version of every movie the same in the the MCU, but I do like the fact that they do change the tones up. I'm not saying that Ragnarok is the tone I want or my favorite tone, but I appreciate that they
I,
do change it.
listen, we watch Guardians of the Galaxy, and I enjoy that thoroughly, what James Gunn has done. But I think part of it is it works for me because of the characters themselves, because they're so different in their own ways and have their own personalities. It kind of works for me. The comedy, it becomes easier. And I think with in other films, like when we take the original like Thor movie, they had a lot of other people outside of Thor doing his shtick of smashing glasses. They had Jane and her friends also playing comedic roles, where they were also telling jokes, fish out of water jokes again. It becomes a little bit like we've seen this done before, where we have all several characters all telling the same jokes. Okay, there, it's is there room for it? I guess it depends on the movie and how it's presented. I have no trouble with Guardians of the Galaxy. I just don't think the way they did it with Thor, it fits for me
I
in
will
those
say
movies.
this: our Lord and Savior Kevin Feige cannot be questioned. Okay, when he takes what was considered to be a bankrupt company in 1996 or whatever, five, whatever, when they were pumping out shit like Man Thing, direct to video, and they were selling off all their major characters to other studios, which is why the X Men are at Fox in the first place, and Fantastic Four was at Fox. and Ghost Rider was at Sony, so they could save their own asses. And then they built their own studio from the ground up, mind you. They've made, they are what Star Wars was to multiplexes in the 70s and 80s. Okay? These motherfuckers have saved Hollywood itself.
So Kevin Feige's walking around going like, "You will be assimilated. We are
Yes.
born.
No,
You will be assimilated."
what I'm saying to you is respect, motherfucker. These motherfuckers have made 19 number one hit movies, have made billions of dollars, and basically are the reason why we still go to movies every couple of weeks or months or whatever it is. I'm not saying that they can't ever be questioned and that they never make a false step, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
I can tell you right now, having the Russo brothers as the directors puts all these movies on a different. They're like the, dare I say, the second coming of early Bryan Singer. Okay, they have put the movies on a whole different level of presentation, and everything else. That's what they are. And so when you ask me for what the A team is, it starts off with Bryan Singer being the father of the modern comic book movie,
Mhm.
and then you have the Russos carrying that torch for me. Now everybody else, I'm not saying is garbage, but there's clearly like the B team. Okay, it's the B team, and they're not trying to be the B team, Bill. They all want the A team movies and accolades. Like you said, they're not trying to make a crap movie, but some people just don't have the talent. Okay, you just
Is it
don't have.
possible that some people have the talent and you just don't necessarily, you don't have to love everything they do?
Oh, well, I'm speaking for myself. Okay, because there's a million people that have seen the movies and got them billions of dollars, so they must enjoy whatever they're putting out. For myself, I see a difference in talent. So when the Russo brothers walk on stage, I'm sitting there going like this, I'm going to be getting some very good stuff here. And they rarely disappoint. Now, when I go to see Ant-Man and Wasp with you, there's going to be some sort of Mexican jokes, there's going to be some fart jokes, there's going to be some sort of shrinkage jokes. Okay, we all see these coming. You're probably going to laugh and say that was cute and that's funny, and I'm going to sit there and roll my eyes. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay. I'm going to buy Black Panther in 2 days, day after tomorrow.
Oh,
Wow.
but Brian Coogler also did a good job too.
I'll be watching that next weekend. And I don't know because I've only seen the movie once and it's been a few months since I've seen it. But my recollection of Black Panther was that it was like not as much fun as it could have been. So again, it's I'm not saying it's a terrible movie. It's just not my preference. Doesn't mean, it's not quality goods though. I mean, apparently it's made all the money in the world, so everyone seems to think otherwise, but it's not necessarily my cup of tea. That's okay, but I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not saying it's the B team or the C team or whatever they put on that movie. It's just not my speed. Maybe Ant-Man's just not your speed, but it doesn't mean it's a terrible movie.
Okay, fair enough. Um, Listen, how long is Avengers: Infinity War?
2 hours and 30 minutes?
Well, I know I slept through like 5 or 10 minutes of it, so that's really not
Actually,
fair.
I was there. You slept through more than that, but we'll just move on.
Okay. Now I know superfan Nadia loved the well, I don't want to say love, but she liked the part where Peter Dinklage being the giant.
Mhm.
There were some weak elements. So out of the 2 hours and 30 minutes, there was probably 5 or 6 minutes of it I thought were kind of weak. But for the most part, it worked on a lot of different levels. Um, that CGI was kind of wonky. I did not like the fact that they
The
sort of
CGI
did.
with Hulk or Bruce Banner inside the Hulkbuster suit, which was like a
Yeah,
30, not even, I would say a 10-second scene. You're really going to focus on that in that whole 2.5 hour movie of
Phil, you know how I am with the whole thing here. If I'm going to be in the movie, I can't. It was so obvious. Listen, You're the one with the pixels. You can tell.
I'm
Look
right.
at my television
You're
and tell me
right.
when there's like 5 pixels out. Okay, so
Right.
rarely do I focus. I had standard definition on my television once and was watching it for like months before you were like, "Oh, standard definition." Okay, so I'm not saying I'm being picky. I'm just saying it's fairly obvious that it was substandard on a movie of that level. They need to come up with a couple extra $1 million and scrub some more pixels in that shit for the 10
So
seconds.
in a movie that has 2 hours and 30 minutes, and there's a 10-second scene in which Hulk doesn't necessarily look like he is actually in the Hulkbuster suit, which, by the way, is a complete CG rendering, the Hulkbuster itself. Okay, you're going to be like, oh, you know what? I saw a hair that was out of place on Scarlet Witch's head. That just ruined it for me. If they could have just scrubbed that hair off her head, I'd have been fine.
Listen, if they were going to be like, if this movie was being made by now the bankrupt Weinstein company, I would be like, they don't have enough money. This is the best they can do, and I move on. But unfortunately, here they're making billions of dollars. These are the details that matter. It seems a little bit haphazard. I'm sorry. And when we watch this movie again, we're going to pause it there, and I want to have you look at this, and then have you sit there and tell me that this is acceptable, because it won't be. You are a CGI master. That is unacceptable CGI.
Meanwhile, Thanos, who is, by the way, also a complete CGI character, has so much facial emotion that they had to fucking shut down NORAD because they didn't have any fucking enough pixels to run the fucking sweep of the universe for fucking alien life. Okay.
You know what happened? When it came time for the Hulkbuster, the people had carpal tunnel because they were kept drawing in so many damn lines for everybody else. They were just like, "Fuck it, we'll just go hire somebody down the street to finish this off." That's what they did. It's at the end of the movie. They got tired. They were tired, Bill. It showed.
Yeah. Do you know how many we sat through the credits twice. The credits were like 20 minutes long. Okay. Do you know how many thousands of people worked on this movie? Thousands.
Now, the other thing I didn't like is I really didn't care. Now, these are minor gripes because there's only about 5 or 6 minutes that didn't hold up for me. I did not like the Peter Quill scene where he's hitting Thanos when they're trying to take the glove off.
Yeah, you and all the other people, by the way, you're not alone in this issue. This is a problem for a lot of fans of this movie, is that Peter basically, they feel like, was the fucking one that ruined the whole fucking galaxy because of his emotional outbursts.
Let me tell you why before you sit there and tell us the dust off or blow off. The problem is it's because I think with people having seen enough movies, it's become like you know what it is? It's like going to a horror movie after seeing so many horror movies that we all are been indoctrinated, from Friday the 13th to Halloween to the modern day horror movies. We've seen them all, Bill. So when the girl hears a noise in the basement, the experienced moviegoer is going to be like this. We're not going to do this again, right? We've all seen this movie. We know when the lights go out and we hear a blood-curdling scream, we don't go, let's go down to the basement and investigate. You sit there and go, the writer should be smarter, the director should be smarter, and they shouldn't be treating their audience like idiots. And they should be like, I'm not going into the basement. I'm going to call the police and run. Okay, so, that worked at the beginning where you didn't have any of those movies. But now we've seen this a million times. And so you're just like, we're smarter than that. So now when you get to this scene, you're like, okay, this guy's got the glove that could kill the world, and you're going to be fucking around hitting him in the face when you can wait. That seems like a problem to where you're like, okay, let's not be stupid here. Now, I know we've argued about this. I think I know where we're going to go with this, but it just kind of like, I think they could have done something different with that. That whole thing, maybe filmed it differently, or maybe had him just break out on its own. But it's kind of frustrating because you're just like, in 3 seconds, if he didn't hit him, they could have had the glove off. It's just frustrating.
I understand as a movie watcher or as a person who's seen way too much bullshit in your life of crap
You've
movies.
Seen the same bullshit here. You've seen the same horror movies. You know what I'm talking about.
But in that moment, in this movie, I'm going to disagree with the majority of fans and people, and even you feel this way. That is probably the most humanizing moment of that probably endeared me more to Chris Pratt's character of Peter Quill than any of the other scenes or movies he's been in entirely. Because quite honestly, that was a human moment. It was a human moment. Yes, he's a hero, but he's not a god like Superman, or, he's not, he is a human. Okay. And he was completely devastated to find out, that Thanos killed the woman that he barely kissed, or we don't know what happened between Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. I assume they probably had sex. I mean, if that was really what, that's what adults do. But I mean, he was devastated. I'm going to tell you right now, if somebody comes to me and says, the galaxy is hinging upon your beating me as a villain, but I just killed your husband, I'm going straight up nigger on the motherfucker. Okay? I don't care about the galaxy in that moment. If you fuck with people that I love, I'm going to fuck with you. I will destroy you to the last fiber of my being. I don't really care what's fucking going on in the universe. At that moment, I don't care. All I know is you took from me the person that I loved, and I will cut you.
Yeah, see, you're emotionally crazy and fanatical, so that's why you're in that position.
I don't know if that's fanatical, Jay. I think that's kind of a human thing. I think that's...
it makes more sense. I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. And I'm not saying you don't have that whole like emotional sudden reaction defense. I get it. But part of it is, I think in this movie context, it's frustrating for me as a viewer that you put him in a position where they make him have this reaction. They want to have this reaction at the most crucial part where they're trying to remove the glove. Like they could have had this before they even got there and had him get his punches in, or they could have had it afterwards. But they wait till they're like this. We can actually get this glove and win this with 3 seconds. 3 seconds. But no, let me just start hitting you in the face and ruin that. I'm saying as a director, don't even put me in that position, because it just seems like it causes more stress.
I understand, but as a character,
and it just sit there and it's useless. If you wanted to have him tell him other words, and have him fight all emotional before that and be like, I can't believe you did that, Thanos. And Thanos goes, I done what I had to do. And then they can fight and he can try to hit him, and then Mantis can drop on him. But to have them like sit there and have him completely subdued, it's almost then like having him go there and wake him up. Wake him up! But you're like, just wait a second. Just let him sleep for 2 more seconds, and then you can do whatever. No, I need to wake him up now. Right. You're just like, oh, okay, I'm just frustrated now. We're all frustrated.
I understand. I really get it, but I do think that you're sort of looking at it from one step removed too far. And if you really put yourself in that character,
I'm saying the director should have never put us in that position, Bill. You could have still had your same. You could have still had the same emotional thing for him and have him do something stupid, but not at that point right there.
But that's the brilliance of it for me, is that just at the moment when they can possibly win the battle, you have a human emotional reaction to something, which is what humans do. We don't necessarily think with our brains all the time. Sometimes we think with our little heads or our hearts or whatever, because that's the human condition. And in that moment, for that character, it was a human reaction for Peter to feel like, what's happening around me in this universe thing fades away when you say to me, you've just killed the person that I love the most in this world. And I think for Peter's reaction, that's a natural.
I think that would work for me in a different setting, in a different movie. The way it was framed, the way it was filmed, and everything else, it does not work.
I understand. I disagree respectfully.
I've seen YouTube videos where the guy's in the courtroom and then he tries to lunge at the criminal that did something to his family. All makes sense. Get it. But in the way it's done here, it just seems like for me, you're like this, okay, we have a plan here. They're about to win, and he's about to ruin it. Like after the first hit, and the theater, you're sitting there going like this. Okay, why are you going to wake him up right now at this point? Like I'm surprised somebody just didn't shoot him in the face. That would have been an interesting scene if they have Tony Stark just blast him in the face with a repulsor ray. They'd be like, okay,
it's the
stop
same
it.
argument that people have with another moment in the film that happens later when Thor throws the axe at Thanos and hits him in the chest. And Thanos says, you should have aimed for the head. And then does the snap that wipes out half of humanity. Okay. People say also, well, why didn't Thor, what in that moment, why didn't Thor take out his head and not take out his chest? Because in a way, if you look at from a certain point of view, as Obi-Wan would say, Thor is responsible for the extinction of half of the human or the galaxy's life. And
I
in that moment,
I don't see I got you. I don't feel that way on that moment right there. I know that I've seen some of the complaints on that. I didn't really think of it that way. It wasn't somehow like they set up in the movie for me that Thor is some sort of Hawkeye with throwing his hammer or axe, like pinpoint. Like I wasn't set up for that. There was nothing that said that he could do that. Like he threw his axe and it happened to hit him in the chest. It wasn't given to me that he had other options. Like he could have done that. I mean, it seemed always like Monday morning quarterbacking going, well, he could have hit him in the head. Well, how am I supposed to know that? Was he said like, you know what, I chose not to because everybody deserves, there's nothing that says that. He just hit him in the chest. Okay.
Listen,
well, how am I supposed to think otherwise?
Thor's not he's not. I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. I don't disagree with you, but to play it from all the angles,
There's nothing in the movie that suggested that somehow he was supposed to hit him in the head or could have hit him in the head.
Okay, but Thor knows, because he's gone through the investigation off screen, though it was, at the end of whatever it was, either was Age of Ultron, I think maybe. But he's gone to investigate the extent of what's going on with these stones, okay? So of all the Avengers, Thor probably is more informed than any of the other ones about the culpability and the scope of what these stones can do. And for Thor not to think, maybe he should have aimed for the fucking forearm and cut off the fucking glove or something, okay? But for Thor to throw that axe or whatever and not think, this man has all of the power in all of the universe that we know of in his one hand. He could have maybe had a little bit more forethought into saying, I've got to get rid of that glove, or, this is going to be dire consequences before he threw the axe. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I don't disagree with you that in the moment that probably wasn't something that occurred to him, but perhaps, maybe, just maybe, it should have. But to get back to Peter and the whole, I just think in that moment, for that character, I don't blame him for his reaction. I just don't find he could. Yeah, he could have, but at that moment, he wasn't thinking about the universe. He wasn't. It's like the mama bear trying to save her cubs. She ain't thinking about what the fuck's going on over here, over there, or elsewhere. Motherfucker fucking killed it's like the same reaction that Tony had when he found out that Bucky killed his parents. You killed my mom. End of story. You've got to go.
Oh, it makes sense, Bill, in that context. But the problem is there was not something going on like, Tony, don't do anything at this point here because he's about to hit this button that's going to annihilate the world or whatever you want to go up with. Like they didn't have that situation going on. His emotional reaction to taking him out immediately makes complete sense. That was the whole setup of the movie, was to put him in that position to where he would do that. You would assume he did, and he would do it. But here, you could sit there and say, by the way, Thanos took out Gamora, and then have Peter have his reaction. but they made it in such a way that all of a sudden, like, well, we could end the whole movie here in 2 seconds. But Peter, you put Peter in a whole, like, for the audience member who's not in the emotional space that he's in, is going to sit there and go like this, just wait 2 seconds, okay? Because the whole universe has to die for your selfishness for just waiting 2 seconds. You put the audience in a position that's not fair because we're not in that with him. Okay, if you want to make it about him and Gamora, then just make it one-on-one. It's a sloppy scene.
But they are. You might not be in it, and other people might not be in it, but their intent in that scene is for you to be in it. You are, I believe, in their intent is for you to be with Peter at that moment to say, "Oh fuck, you killed my fucking girlfriend, my wife, whatever." You know.
No, we're not in it because we've already witnessed Gamora die. We've already seen that and already wept.
Yeah, but
we're
Peter
like this.
Didn't.
I know, but we have. So we've already sat there, and by the time it comes to us and it's revealed to him, we don't have the same emotional reaction because we already know, Bill. And now we're down to business. We're trying to get the glove off of him. He's playing catch up to us. If you wanted to go the other way, you have the other way. When they shot it in the fucking Civil War, it was revealed to him all at the same time it was revealed to us. Okay? So we were all in the same space. We weren't in the same space when we saw it this time. We had already processed
0011 computer does not compute side of you.
What are you talking about? We had already processed her death.
I understand that. You are supposed to be in that scene. And I can't speak for them. I'm not them, but I can speak for myself. And in that moment, I identified with Peter, because if someone had done something like that and revealed it to me at that moment, I would have fucking gone fucking nigger on them too. I can't believe I just said that. I'm sorry. I apologize to all the listeners, but I am black, and so I can say it, just like I'm gay and I can say fag. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we can agree to disagree on it. The scene doesn't work for me.
Okay.
But outside of that, I'm trying to think what else. There was a lot more good in the movie. There's too many good things that happened for me to go over. The other thing is neutering of the Hulk. I understand that there might be a bigger picture in the second part of Infinity War. But as it goes, for this standalone movie right now, did not care for it, did not like that decision. But it'll maybe make more sense when part 2 comes out. But right now, it's a no-go for me.
I don't disagree with you. I think
I don't want to see, when we're talking about Avengers and we're talking about having a big battle against the ultimate villain that we've been building up for almost like 2 decades worth of movies here. But when you have this, you have one of your strongest characters having some sort of mental issue. Now, we've heard that the Russo brothers were talking about that they wanted, like, Bruce Banner to step up and be a hero. Well, I don't read Bruce Banner, the comic book, okay? I read the Hulk comic book. That's what it's called. It's called The Incredible Hulk, the Great Hulk, whatever you want to call it is called the Hulk. So that's what I kind of want to see. And if you want to do a story where Bruce Banner steps up and becomes a hero, then you do it in a solo Hulk movie where you have time to work on that and show that whole arc. But in the biggest movie, I don't really want to have time to be messing around with Bruce.
Here's the problem, Jay. They're not going to do a Hulk movie. Kevin Feige has already come out and said they've already tried to give the world the Hulk, and the world rejected it, of the Incredible Hulk. Of all the Marvel movies, it is the least successful of the Marvel movies. And they don't really have any interest in trying to test those waters again.
Okay, if they don't want to test those waters with the Incredible Hulk, then I don't know why we're testing the waters with somehow Bruce Banner becoming a hero, okay? Because that seems like that has less of a chance to come to side.
But if you put the character in a movie,
it's going to be a successful movie, then how about you release Bruce Banner, the hero, as a movie? Okay? $0, Bill. Nobody wants to see it. So why do you think I want to see him on screen whining and fighting with the Hulk inside. Spend the money and put the Hulk on screen to make him fight because
Listen,
he is
I,
one
I
of the
I'm
Avengers.
going to say this right now, and I don't disagree with your opinion about how the Hulk is portrayed in this movie. I do trust that they're doing something that's going to redeem this arc, which I don't find fascinating either. In part two, um, I think it was the way they portrayed it in the movie. Talking about the way it's portrayed, I found that to be probably my least likable aspect of the movie and least believable aspect of the movie, where you have basically Hulk or Bruce Banner having ED. Okay, it's just kind of,
Oh,
and the
so
way it's
funny.
portrayed in the movie,
That's hilarious.
it's just kind of stupid the way they portray it, where he's like, oh, and it's like he's trying to take a shit at the same time. I don't want to blame Mark Ruffalo. He's a good actor. I just don't think on any level that it really became believable or emotionally resonant to me with Hulk being somehow reluctant to come out of Bruce Banner.
Yes.
All this time, I just found it to be a little bit forced and
Right. Why are we supposed to believe because he got his ass kicked the first time that's why he was reluctant?
right. And
Okay.
I guess that's the idea. That, yeah, it or how else I've heard them talk about in interviews. The Russos is, he's Hulk is tired of Bruce using him as like his defense shield against things, and he's like, I'm not just here to be used as your like muscle, and I'm just I want to be more than that, and
I got you.
maybe
I
that's
am woman. Hear me roar. Is that what
right.
we're doing?
I'm more than just a piece of meat. I guess is really where we're going,
Yeah.
and
I don't need to. I don't need to see this in my movie. I need to see this in a solo movie, but I don't really care about this whole neuter thing like that. Like it's not something of any interest at this point.
I'm not saying the whole. It's not of. It could be of interest to me. I think it's on paper.
Yes, in another movie.
I think it's a way that they can go. I just don't think it was executed well in this movie, and it's my least part of the movie that I liked in general.
I think it's a disservice to be trying to do some sort of like new character arc or development in a movie that's you're supposed to have all your heroes established as to their personalities and where they're going. Like it seemed a bit of a, this would be like a lead in to another big movie. I just, I think they just ran out of enough money and they just didn't want to put the Hulk in there because they spent all the.
I'm anxious for them to move beyond this aspect of it. I don't have a lot of investment in this particular angle of this particular side of the Hulk Banner storyline. I like the Hulk and I like Banner both. I don't think that one really necessarily needs to preclude or exclude the other. I just think there is a way for them to execute this sort of duality between these characters in a better fashion. And I hope that there will be more um, enjoyable parts of it for me in the next version. But this is a quibble for me in this movie because it wasn't a huge part of the movie. It's just that having been invested in the Hulk in more in other films in a more deep fashion, I also have issue, quite honestly, with interviews from the Russos that I've heard where they've talked about their whole ignoring of the Thor or the Hulk and Black Widow romance. I liked that, and I know that I'm the minority in that also in um, Ultron, but I liked that, and having established that, I think it's not fair to people who did like that for them to just brush it aside, and they've basically said in the interviews I've read that they're just not going to go there anymore because they know it's not super popular and they don't necessarily care for it. So they've taken that aspect and sort of brushed it aside. I don't like that. I think that there was an expectation for me to, um, and they even played it in Ragnarok when the whole reason the Hulk goes away and Banner is able to come back out again in Ragnarok is because of watching the video of Black Widow, talking to him on the plane, and there was a connection there. I'm sorry, it was established. It's part of the MCU, and just for them to just say, "Well, we don't really care for that, so we're just not going to deal with it," I think it's bullshit. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, are you kidding me? Hello? What? Am I what? Yeah, I was. What the fuck? It just cut off? Are you serious? Can you power it back on? Yeah. Yeah. Are you on your phone? I need you, if you're going to be in this basement a lot, I'm going to need you to install a fucking landline because this is ridiculous. It's like every other word you say is cut out on this phone. How much is a landline going to cost you, Jay? $10 a month? If you get it on your fucking cable, it'll be like less than that. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus, because fucking A. We're not? Okay. Well, I mean, what are you going to do? Just be like, anyway, so I was saying, dun it, dun it, dun it. I mean, we can truncate it. I mean, we can wrap it up, but fuck, we got to have some kind of ending. Jesus fucking Christ. So, do you think it has something? Wait, where's your Wi-Fi? Where? But that wouldn't have anything to do with the computer shutting down, because you. Okay, right. Maybe there was some kind of Do you have a power strip connected to it? Maybe there was some kind of like, I don't know, circuit break or something for a second, like a split second. Did the lights flicker? Are you sitting in the dark down there, or do you have lights on? Okay, did the lights flicker? Okay, then it probably wasn't that. Jesus H. Christ. All right, bye. Hello? Hello?